We're here in Monte Carlo for the Rendez-Vous de Septembre. For Invest TV, I'm Richard Banks. And I'm joined now by Mohamed Kotb, Managing Director, Treaty Division at UIB. Mohamed, it's good to see you again. Welcome.
Good to see you. Thank you.
So we're here towards the end now of the Monte Carlo Rendezvous. Tell us a little bit about the messages that you're picking up and you're taking home.
Well, it's this time of the year, so it's about where we are in the cycle and the expectations for the January 1st renewal. I think it's safe to say we are past the peak. And the key question is what is happening to the terms and conditions with the January 1st. I think there is going to be a lot of expectations from the clients to see some reductions on the January 1st, supported by the exceptional results by the reinsurers. We're seeing the capacity flowing in, or sufficient capacity at least, particularly on the retro side, as well as the clear softening that we've been seeing on the direct and FAC. Having said that, I'm quite careful in my messaging. I don't expect to see a return to the soft market that we had pre the last hardening. I think reinsurers will try as much as possible to maintain some underwriting discipline and not lose the strategic gains that they got over the past two renewals. I think the big discussion will not just be on the rates, but maybe more so on the structures and the retention levels. One of the main gains by the reinsurers over the past 2 years was pushing the retention levels up, especially on the Nat Cat, and that's really had a major impact on their improved results. And moving the reinsurance more towards capital protection as opposed to earnings protection. And that's why we've seen, despite the loss activity, most of the losses were being taken by the direct insurance market, not by the reinsurers. So some of the key clients in some key areas will be pushing for taking some of that retention and taking back to the reinsurance. And I think this is where we're going to be seeing a bit of a tug-of-war. So rather than saying the market is going from hardening to softening, I think the better statement would be just going from rigidity to more a negotiation at renewal. I think there will be clear differentiation by segment and by client. And those with more strategic partnerships, I think, will fare much better.
Okay, so I'll delve into those in a little bit more detail in a second. But tell us a bit about managing client expectations when they're hearing about softening markets. And clearly, you're talking about resilience. How do you balance those two elements?
So it's a tricky one. I think that we've always seen in Monte Carlo a bit early in the year. Reinsurers are talking up the market. Clients also trying to talk it down. As a broker, you're always in the funny situation of trying to be balanced as much as possible. I think it's more about preparing the underwriters and our clients for the renewal. So it is preparing the data, which is becoming more and more important, focusing, encouraging them to have more long-term strategic partnerships, and not just looking at the price and where they can get the cheaper price, which is always very important, but really looking at the structures and what would work best for them. And depending on the regions, they come with different challenges. So in some regions, our challenge is actually encouraging the clients to go for higher retentions because of the underlying profitability and put it more skin in the game, while in other regions, we're trying to take back off the balance sheets and into the reinsurers' balance sheets.
So what's the secret to building those strong relationships?
I would say for the broking industry, especially on the treaty side, when we have a 1/1 renewal, I always tell my team the renewal for the next year starts as soon as you're done with this renewal. There was always the idea that treaty reinsurers only work once or twice a year with the renewal season. That's very far away from the truth. It's really being very close to the client and understanding what they need and preparing early. And setting the expectations is very important, especially if you're the holding broker. Very easy for new brokers to promise reductions, and it's really getting the confidence of the client and getting more and more into the analytics. I think that's an area where we're trying to differentiate ourselves in terms of giving real advice to a lot of the clients. And again, understanding your clients' needs and differentiating and segmenting markets, which also maybe brings us to the topic of how the market is changing, globally compared to the regionalization more and more of different segments of the market. I think that's becoming more and more important. Having local expertise to service the client while also linking up with your international global network.
So you've mentioned segmentation a couple of times. Tell us a bit about that. Tell about perhaps the differences in the various segments.
I think it's amazing how different levels of sophistication, penetration, and financial capabilities of different companies in the same market and from one market to the next. And I think one of the areas that are key is really trying to bring this global reach that we have to our local clients while really understanding their specific requirements. and that's a challenge. And I think but the market is shifting in that direction. I think there's still a very important need to have reinsurance as a global market because our capital deployment, for it to be efficient, is depending on that global reach. And too much regionalization comes with its own frictional costs. However, it is a need. And I think the successful players of the future are the ones who are going to be able to combine an element of regional focus and then connect those regional nodes through their global network.
And that requires a lot of data, that requires you to have robust data. And I guess people are talking a lot about AI and the use of AI, the opportunities, the challenges. What's your take on that?
Well, my team's sick of me, and my family's sick of me talking about AI. It's all I've been going on about, and I think it's definitely going to be a game changer. And again, that's an area where you see huge differentiation between different players. Some are very aware of what's coming and really investing in that area. Some markets and companies are not. And I think the challenge now is not just trying to go and look 10 years or 5 or 10 years into the future about all the great deep learning is going to bring, but even before that, especially on the back office side, which is AI that we already have and technology that we already have, but it's not fully deployed. I think one of the main challenges of our industry is the very high costs. For an industry of our size, we have very high expense ratios, and that's always proven very difficult to bring down. And technology is going to be a game changer. And those who are able to effectively deploy it are going to really dictate the future.
So one final question, Mohamed, if I may. Is there one issue today that's being overlooked, that's being missed perhaps, that's going to be really important in the future?
For me, it would have been AI. If I had to choose, I would say it's AI. But I think it's also just what's really been brought to our attention over the past few years is the extreme impact of geopolitics, where we always knew it was a major risk. But I think how interconnected exposures are and the systemic risk that comes from geopolitics is becoming much more acute in everyone's mind. And it's also a case where I think the industry needs to focus on being more maybe stable on the long term. We're very reactionary, and for someone from the outside looking in, this concept of hardening and softening and the extreme that it goes to, I don't think speaks or paints a very good picture of our industry. I think we need to be more, anticipatory of what's coming and try. There's always going to be hardening and softening, but we need to be a bit more consistent. And I think I'll say these are the two main things to keep an eye on.
Mohamed, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Richard, always a pleasure. Thank you.
For Invest TV, I'm Richard Banks.